Hello students, let's continue the lecture. In the last lecture, we have seen that how many types of data representation are there, and we have seen that there are two main types, actually four main types, and one is graphical representation. And in that, of course, the data is represented in the form of in graph or in a form of diagram. So this graphical representation has divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 different types of graphs. One is line graph. It is always used whenever there is continuous data. So something is growing continuously. At that time, you have to use line graphs. Bar graphs, when you have the data with categories and you need to compare those categories. So at that time, you have to mostly use bar graphs. Then histograms, the graph that uses bars to represent the frequency of numerical data. Then line plot, it shows frequency of data on a given number line. Then frequency table, it actually used to show the number of pieces of the data that falls within the given interval. Then circle graph, which is also called as pie chart, and it is always used when you need to show the relationship of the parts between the parts of the whole. So stem and leaf plot, this is the plot in which the data is organized from least value to greatest value, and the digits of the least values are always leaves, and the next place value digit is always considered as a stems. Then box and whisker plot, in this plot diagram summarizes the data by dividing into four parts. Box and whisker shows always the range, spread, and the middle, that is the median of the data. And we have also seen these figures of different graphs. So this is bar graph, this is histogram, frequency table, circle graph or pie chart, line graph, stem and leaf plot, then line plot, and box and whisker plot. Now, there are some general rules for graphical representations. Those are as follows. For every graphical representation, you must give suitable title, because it gives or it indicates that this particular graph or figure is about what or in which subject or what you are comparing, or it is regarding what. So everywhere, actually, whatever data you take, everywhere suitable title you must give. Measurement units you must mention in the graph. Then proper scale. Even if you draw the graph on a graph paper, mostly science people knows this. So whenever we need to draw the graph, even on a graph paper, at that time also you have to give the scale, because the proper scale will represent the data in accurate manner as per the scale. Then the index, appropriate color, shade, line, design in the graph. Index will help to actually understand all this. Then data sources, which include the source of information wherever it is necessary at the bottom of the graph. So whatever you are doing or whatever you have considered in that particular data, you have to give all information about that data below the graph or at the bottom. Then always, whatever type of graph you are using, keep it always simple, construct it in a very simple way, in a very easy way, so that everyone can understand just by looking at the graph. And then neat. So you should not make the graph messy. Always, whatever color, font size you're using, it should be decent. So when you see towards that graph, it should feel that it should be analyzed, or it should be seen by the whatever audience or the expert, and they could able to analyze, or they could able to get the information what is presented. Then pictorial representation using bar graph. So bar graph is also known as bar chart, and even in the pictorial form, maximum is getting covered into the graphs only. So many graphs are also get represented in the form of pictorial representation. The bar graph can drawn vertically or horizontally. So vertical bar graph is known as column bar graph, and it is called as column bar graph. And since one bar graph can be displayed to can be used to display actually multiple groups of the data. So on one bar graph, you can apply multiple groups. That is what is the speciality of the bar graph. You can compare there itself. So the bar graphs can be used to compare, or it is always used as a comparative tool, and most of the time it is in a rectangular form. So since the rectangular bars are proportional, so their differences can be spotted much more easily visually than the words. So just you look at the rectangular bars and you could able to find out what difference each bar has. So suppose just say that you have the pocket money of 100 rupees every week, right? So you are allowed to spend this money any or whatever way you want to spend, right? So you have 100 rupees per week. Then you use this money to buy some chocolate or beverages or food or whatever miscellaneous toys or whatever miscellaneous stuff or whatever stuff you want, right? Now what you notice is that every week the money just seems to disappear. Money always get disappear. So every week you feel that my money is getting or my money is spending more fast. So then you ask your father for a little more money, and he instead suggested that just try to find it out that where is money is going and learn the value of money. So to this end, you decided to make the bar chart, because every day how much money you are spending. If you do that, you will be very easily able to know that where your money is going, and at the same time on which day you have spent the money a lot. So after a week you have a details of the week's expenditure, and they look something like this, that this is the weekly expenditure. On chocolate, how much money you have spent? 25 rupees. Beverages, somewhere about 20. So on food, 40, and on mice, it is 50. So very easily you could able to understand that in a way the money is getting spent on what maximum money is, whatever is spent here. You can very easily predict that on food maximum money has been spent. So what are the properties of bar graph? The width of each bar or column in a bar graph must be equal. So you can see that all the bars are having exactly same width, right? You cannot say the same height because this scale is variable. So it should be just the width can be similar. The base of the bar is common in the bar graph, right? The height of the bars represent the data in the bar graph proportionality, right? So what as in what proportion or what how much money has spent in the overall week on chocolate is 25. In a week, beverages is 15. So accordingly, this height of the bar will get changed. The bar can be drawn horizontally or vertically. So this is the horizontal way. Vertical will be from this side. The bars you can draw. Now there are different types of the bar graph. Those are vertical bar graph, then horizontal bar graph, double bar graph. So we will not go in details of that. It is just for your information. Then what is the diagrammatic representation of the data? So in diagrammatic representation, obviously the numerical data is getting represented through the pictograms. cartograms, bar diagrams, and pie diagrams. So all graphs can mostly even the line graph will also be considered here. So it is the most attractive and appealing way, because once you see towards the graph, you can use different colors and make it more attractive, and at the same time you can give a very clear picture about the whatever topic result you want to apply. Then the diagrams help in visual comparison, and they have bird's eye view. Bird's eye view means just once saw and you could able to know which is the lowest, which is the highest. So under pictograms, we use pictures to present the data. So here there is no tabular information or textual information. You can also give the information in the textual form. That is, we generally write whenever we write the reports. That is actually the way that you are representing your data in the form of text. So but in the form of picture, whatever text you are writing, many times we don't need to even go through all the text. You just see the figure, you just see the graph, and you will able to know that what exactly this research is about and what are the results, final results. You don't need to even read, just look at the graph, look at the diagram, and you will able to. So this is the wildlife population, and by just seeing the uh, line diagram, you can see where there is a comparison between bear, dolphins, and whales, and you could able to predict the final conclusion. Then this is the bar diagram, then pictorial, that is the pie chart diagram can also be under this. Single line diagram also can be presented in diagrammatic representation. And the diagrams specifically in science, in that more, or in biological science, even in physics and chemistry also, it is needed a lot. So the diagrammatically you can prepare a diagram by yourself. Always remember, if you want to use the diagram of any another scientist, it is mandatory that you have to take their written permission for using that particular diagram. You cannot just copy paste that diagram and use it, because if you do that, then they can legally file a case on you. So whatever diagram generally the biological science or science people need to, they have to draw it themselves, and then they can use the way they want to represent the data. Here thus they have represented the DNA chromosomal pattern in this way, that how the discovery of DNA and the chromosomal patterns, or what type of genes they could able to discover within this whole period from 1970 to 2020 2003. So the pictorially it is very easy. Now instead of reading the whole history from 1972 to 2013, it's just by looking at one figure I could able to know that in 70 this was the condition, in 23 right now this is the condition, and middle how the development has taken place. Now tabular representation of the data. So this is the so in this particular presentation of the data, the name itself suggests that whatever data you want to present, it should be in a tabular form, right? So it is generally this kind of tabular presentation is, as I said, that it must be in a table, and the table that helps to represent even a large amount of data in an engaging, easy to read way, and in a coordinated manner. So once by just looking at the table, you could very easily able to understand that what result you got once you organize it properly. So the data is arranged in case of table always in row and column. You all know that every table must have a rows and column, and this is one of the most properly used forms of the presentation of the data. So the most significant benefit of tabulation is it coordinates data for additional statistical statements. So most of the time, whenever the data is tabulated, always statistically you could able to present the data which is more accurate, which is more correct. And the analysis which is used in the tabulation, there are 4 types of that. That is qualitative analysis, quantitative analysis, temporal, and spatial. So in qualitative classification, when the classification is done according to the traits, that is some physical status or some social status or nationality or some physical characteristics, so whenever such kind of trait is considered, it is called as qualitative classification. So accordingly you can prepare the table, where just by looking at the table you will able to know all the status, physical or national or social or whatever characteristic status it could be, very easily can be understood by the people. Then the quantitative classification, in this of course numbers will be there, figures will be there, instead of word always it will always be a numerical, and it will tell you about whatever data you have added, it will get analyzed as per the quantity. So that's why it is called as quantitative classification, and it will very clearly tell you that what is the maximum value and what is the lowest value. Then the temporal classification, in this classification, time becomes the categorizing variable. So the data is classified according to the time. So the time, that time you can represent maybe in years or months, week, days, hours, minutes, seconds. So whenever the data is getting classified on the basis of time, and if you're adding it for a table, or if you're going to prepare the table for that, it is always called as temporal classification. Then spatial classification, in this category, again, the categorization is done on the basis of location. So place is the main part, location. So that place can be a country, can be a state, can be a district, can be a block, can be a village, can be a town, can be your home. So whatever place is there. So whenever such classification is there, or whenever such classification of data is needed, you can make the table of all this under spatial classification. Now, what are the objectives of tabulation of the data? So following are the objective of tabulation, that is just whatever vast data you have, you have to just simplify the complex data, right? This is the one way, because whatever you have written in a text, read each and every line and then understand every line will take a lot of time. It will be very time consuming, right? And for each word you need to think. Just put everything in a form of a table, and within 5 minutes you will understand the whole thing about that particular data, that what is your result. So to bring, the second objective is to bring out essential features of the data. So whenever you have analyzed the data and put it in the form of table, you can very easily find it out, which are essential features, which are weak features, what is strong points, which are weak values, all you could able to understand it well here. Now, it also facilitates the comparison, because you are putting everything in a table. So immediately in column and rows, you can make the comparison and give your conclusion that whatever data you have collected. It also facilitates the statistical analysis, because many a times tabular forms are having values, because whenever it is a quantitative data, so you can apply statistics, and with the help of statistics, you can again prove that whatever research you have done is significant or non-significant. Then saving a space. Now writing the context, saving not only the space, even the work, hard work, typing and all. Of course, for table also you need to, but it is much less as compared to the typing text. So it will save the space also, and it will also save the time. But then what are the limitations? Are there any limitations for the tabulization? Or can every data get represented in the form of table? So the answer is no, that everything cannot get represented in the form of table. Of course, there are 80% data which you can present either in a form of table. 90% data you can present in the form of either table or graph. But again, you have to think that which is the best suitable for your data and what type of data you are representing. So accordingly, you have to take the decision that for this particular data, I have to go for table formation or for the graph formation or figure or pictorial representation. So following are the three major limitations of the table. One is it lacks description. The table is having only represents only figures in the sense numbers and not attributes. So only numbers will be there, right? So no attributes are you cannot add attributes there. That you can add in the text. So the description is lacking, right? So it ignores the qualitative aspect of the form. Many a times for the qualitative data, you don't actually go for the table formation. Generally, it is represented by the graph. So it ignores the qualitative aspects of the facts, right? Because you cannot able to add it into the table. Then incapable of presenting individual atoms. In a sense, it does not present individual atom, because whatever you are giving, it is most of the time it's the summary you are going to give into the table, and it presents the aggregate data. So whatever data you have collected, you are doing that data or presenting that data in a form of aggregation in case of table, right? So no details you cannot give it here. Then needs spatial knowledge. So to understand the table, it always requires a spatial knowledge, that how you should read the table, how you should prepare the table, how you are going to represent your data in the form of table. It requires the knowledge and it cannot be easily used by layman. So उद्या कुणाला पण उठून तुम्ही जर सांगितलं that come here and prepare table for this, he or she may not be, right? Because it requires some understanding and spatial knowledge to prepare the tables. Now, what are the main parts of the table? Whenever you want to present or prepare a table for your scientific presentation, these are the points or the parts you must include into your table. First is table number, right? So whenever you are giving a title, with that title, every table must have a title, and with that title you have to give that the what table number is, figure number, the way you are writing figure number and then title. Exactly in the same way for table also you have to write table 1 and title, table 2 and title, table 3 and title. So table number is the very first item which you need to mention on the top of each table for easy identification and further reference. Many a times in scientific presentation, the title of the table is given down, but that is the wrong way to present the table. For table, always you have to give the title on the top, and for figure, you have to give the title at the bottom. This is general rule, but you can even give figure title also on the top. Then the title of the table is the second item. So first will be the number, after that the title. So it is the second item that is shown just above the table. It narrates what the title is going to tell, that it is going to tell that what is presented in that particular table. So the title must be very clear, brief. It should not be so long, 2, 3, 4 line title for the table. It's just exactly the wrong presentation of the table, or wrong scientific presentation, I must say. So always it should be a easy, it should be a very clear, brief and carefully worded. So whatever title you are doing, it always must be done with utmost care. Then head note. So it is the third atom just above the table and shown after the title. Head note means I want to tell something about that particular table, or extra information about the unit or quantity I want to give. So mostly it is done in a superscript way, so that you can add after the title, which is called as head note. So it gives the information about units. Most of the time it's like amount in rupees, or I want to specify something about the title, that also I can write it. So it should be the amount in rupees or quantity in tons, etc. It is generally given in brackets. So you have to give it into the brackets. Then captions or column readings. So at the top of each column in a table, a column designated or head is given to explain the figures of the column. So every column must have a title, or that title is actually called as caption. So every row, every column must have its own caption, because until and unless you don't give its own caption, you will not, and only figures you have given and there is no caption for every column, then it will be like you it will be like you will not understand anything, because there is no caption at all, right? So those figures are indicating what, that you don't know, right? Now stuffs or row heading. So at the left hand side you must give the row heading, and at the top you have to give the column heading. So the title of the horizontal row is known as stub, and the title of the column is known as caption. So captions and stubs, always it must be included in the table. Then body of the table, it contains the numerical information and reveals the whole story of investigated facts. So whatever you are presenting in a table is actual the information of whatever you did the research and your data you are presenting there. So that body, so whatever numbers you are adding in column, which is at the top, and rows which is horizontally to the left to right generally. So that must give all the information about your research. So whenever you are reading, whenever you are presenting the table, you must read the columns vertically from top to down. You cannot go from down to top or bottom to top. And whenever you want to read the data in the row, you have to always read it from left to right. Then the source note, it is a brief statement. Always after or below the table, you can write a note. By giving asterisk, you can write a note and give whatever it is actually the extra information or brief statement or phrase which indicates that the source of data presented in the table. So that you can give, and even the font size for that note should be less than whatever content you have added into the table. Then the next is footnote. It explains the specific features of the table, which is not self-explanatory. So you have added some value, or you have added some sign in the table, and that sign must get explained. So that you have to again add it after the table in the form of footnote, and even the size of footnote by doing asterisk you can add, and it explains that this particular sign is for this particular thing. So those are, for example, points of the exception, if any. Or I'm saying that this is except, this particular value is I got exception. So there I can make the sign and put the meaning of that sign down. Now we will see a short video.
Based on qualitative research books and my personal experience, there are commonly 5 ways of displaying data. Number 1, through tables and lists. Then participants' voices can be important data in qualitative research. Then there are modern ways include making graphs and figures. Number 4, pictures are very important. Number 5, field notes or observation. Number 1 is through tables and lists. You can place summary of findings in rows or columns. You can make a table or list of respondents' demographics such as age, gender, experience. You can provide a list of institutions, departments, shops, homes visited for data collection purpose. See some examples here. In first table, the author exhibits household types and shaping patterns in columns and rows. In the second table, which is extracted from my personal research paper, I showed very significant, and less significant information used by journalists. Then we can display qualitative data through participant voices also. Inserting relevant quotes of participants' voices, that is, original words spoken by the respondents, you may translate where needed as an evidence is one way of displaying qualitative data. You can see in this figure, which is an excerpt from my paper, that text highlighted in red are participant voices. Then you can also use graphs and figures for this purpose. Depending upon the nature of your study, you may insert family tree, organizational chart, flow chart, geographic map, census tract map, spatial layout of a study area. In this first figure, I displayed word cloud of politician's tweet account to know which popular words he said. In the second one, which is mind map, I displayed how journalists conceive their story ideas differently. And in the third figure, I depicted improvement areas suggested by students in a study. This diagram shows 4 types of respondents' choices about school bus. The author used here different icons to make it interesting and understandable. Pictures are also very important data evidence in qualitative research. You can take or collect photographs from field, then reproductions such as artwork or of others' drawings or pictures can also be used for displaying qualitative data. See these 2 examples of my own studies. In the first, you can see that I tried to display natural light coming from windows. In the second picture, I displayed gloves used by workers of a public library to protect rare material. You can also collect pictures from respondents or can take with permission from your own camera. Finally, field notes can also be used to display qualitative data. To get more insights into respondents' behaviors, activities, processes, and background or environment, it is important to get field notes on your diary from the data collection site. See this example. Field notes can be descriptive, such as how many rooms, classes, chairs, playgrounds, material, staff you may observe in a school. Also, field notes can be reflective, which is overthinking about a phenomenon. See the right column in this table based on your personal perceptions as a researcher. I hope this video will be beneficial for all the researchers who are beginner in qualitative research. Thank you.
Okay.
Based on qualitative research book.
Now we need to stop it here. Thank you. Bye-bye.